Sunday around
We're watching football.
1-ish, and we were
Like
watching
every
football.
family, or a lot of families on Sunday.
And
We're
then
watching
our
football.
son was here. Everybody was home except for she was down at her home
We
in LA.
gather on Sunday.
And my niece called me and she was freaking out and she said, "Christy, have you talked to Kaylee?" And I said, "Yesterday, like last night." And she said, "Something bad happened." She was just bawling. And I said, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean?" And she said, "I think Kaylee's dead." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she
All
said,
our stomachs just dropped.
she said, "There was somebody just called me and they live down there." And she said there was a party last night and somebody went in and shot the party up and Kaylee was shot. Sunday around
We're watching football.
1-ish, and we were
Like
watching
every
football.
family, or a lot of families on Sunday.
And
We're
then
watching
our
football.
son was here. Everybody was home except for she was down at her home
We
in LA.
gather on Sunday.
And my niece called me and she was freaking out and she said, "Christy, have you talked to Kaylee?" And I said, "Yesterday, like last night." And she said, something bad happened. And she was just bawling. And I said, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean?" And she said, "I think Kaylee's dead." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she
All our
said,
stomachs just dropped.
she said there was somebody just called me and they live down there. And she said there was a party last night and somebody went in and shot the party up and Kaylee was shot. And I was like, "What?" And I just threw my phone. I started screaming. I started telling everybody to call Olivia and to get all her roommates on the phone. And I started calling Maddie, and Maddie wouldn't answer, and Maddie wouldn't answer. And I said, "No, this can't be, because Maddie would have called me. If Kaylee was shot last night at a party, Maddie or Jack would have called me." Like, no, and I called Kaylee and I went straight to voicemail. I was calling Maddie, I was calling Jack, it was ringing. I turned on the TV and I saw outside 1122 King Road, like Kaylee's car was in the driveway, Maddie's car was in the driveway, but it was saying an unconscious person. And we're saying, okay, maybe this isn't, like, maybe something happened. So Steve starts calling Steven, our son, started calling the hospital, and he started calling the PD and saying, "My name's Gonzalez, and we heard that my daughter Kaylee Gonzalez was killed in an accident," and they said, "Oh, we can't give you any more information, we'll call you back." Well, next thing you know, some more phones started ringing. Our daughters that came running down, 16 and 17 years old, came and said, "Mom, somebody just called me and said that Kaylee's dead." And we're like, "What? Like, who was it?" And she's like, "I don't know, it's somebody that's out there and Kaylee's dead." And we were like, "Oh my God, like, this can't be, and it's just very, very, very dramatic.
These protocols have to be updated.
Yeah.
These protocols of somebody showing up at your door 10 hours later is ridiculous.
Because we had hours of panic before sheriff
It was
department.
terrible.
It was about 4:30. And
So you guys, they never called you. You guys found this out from family members that were in the area, and you guys didn't get notified. You actually reached out to them, and you guys still didn't get notified
he
for
wound up
hours.
calling them twice.
I
And
get
then
it.
I
Their
said,
protocols are all about, like, maybe they'll commit suicide or something, but they have to be updated because
The sheriff.
social media moves so fast, so quick. That's why we are using social media. I'm not using the most common channels.
we called Karen and we asked Karen if she had heard anything, and she goes, "Yes, I was told that I need to get down here, that there was an
Hers was
accident."
good. We honestly.
We thought maybe Maddie was the unconscious person, and we had already been told by several people, like 100% Kaylee was dead. And we were like, 100, and they're bawling, and they're like
Maddie
this.
was just unconscious.
And then we're like, but Karen got a call saying to come down there. We haven't
I
got a
thought that
call.
was a good sign.
So we're like, well,
And I kept giving them hope. I kept saying, if it happened last night, you guys would know by now. I kept giving them hope. I said, they just released an article that the roommates are being questioned right now. They probably took their phones, Mom. Like, I just kept giving them hope because I live in Los Angeles. There wasn't here. And that's all I could do. But, like, it's just this feeling in your gut that, like, I just sat with.
I knew as soon as my niece, as soon as Sabrina called, I knew that it was real.
Yeah.
And she was freaking out.
And then cops showed up around 4:30.
The sheriff came around 4:30, and then he told us that there were 4 victims, and we said, "Is one of them Maddie Morgan?" And he told us yes. Then we realized that it was Kaylee and Maddie.
We still knew she was going down there. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, Karen was still on her way, and
Still driving.
And then she got down there, and she got there about 20 minutes after we got the news. And
another person who was broken by the news of Kaylee's passing is her ex-boyfriend, Jack Decor. Not only has his life been picked apart, He's been scrutinized by social media.
You know in your heart he had nothing to do with this.
More than, I mean, even just logically. I think that a lot of people assume we're blinded by this individual, but contrary to that, we're very capable of removing our emotions for Jack, which is absolute love, and just looking at the situation logically, looking at this individual in front of us, looking at a pattern of behaviors of him that we've seen throughout 5-6 years. So emotionally, and in our hearts, and in our heads, and in every sense of the word, it's not.
We did a job
thorough.
vetting him.
I asked him to, did he have any scratches? Did he have any bruises? He came here immediately after it happened.
He can prove that he had none.
No, I checked his shoes.
Yeah.
I checked his car. I checked his hands.
I took photos.
I checked his neck.
Yeah.
He came over in shorts.
Yeah.
Within hours.
And he was happy for Kaylee.
Yeah.
Whether they were, I think they were close to getting back together. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were. Whether she was moving without him or not. He had nothing but love.
Welcome back to my Mental Health and Crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is the case of the Idaho quadruples. May the 4 victims rest in peace. Condolence to the families. And may the correct justice be served. I find it interesting that somebody called Kaylee's mother and told her that Kaylee was shot. I believe Kaylee's cousin or aunt called the mother, and they live near Idaho, Moscow, and they said that they heard that Kaylee was shot in a party. My question is, was there a party that night? We know that there was a sorority party that Kaylee attended on Friday night, on the 11th of November or 12th of November. I wonder where these rumors came from that Kaylee got shot. Could this have been an accident that became a quadruple cover-up? Just saying. And why didn't the police inform all the parents immediately that unfortunately their child was unalived? Instead of waiting for the parents to hear it from other people in Idaho, Moscow, because this is really serious. This is part of their bereavement. Not to be informed by the police immediately causes just more anger, bitterness, sadness, and wrong information. What happened to the 4 students after they were unalived? Were they taken out of the house when the police came, or were they taken the following night? One of the neighbors, Kane, who lives behind the girl's house, said that when he drove by on Sunday morning, the 13th of November, he saw police and ambulances standing outside the house. I wonder if the victims were taken in ambulances? I just want to figure out this part where it says that Kaylee was shot. Was Kaylee at a party? Could they have had a gathering at home? Possibly Xana and Ethan. Because there's a couple of plastic cups, at least 4 of them, and a empty glass of alcohol beverage on the table. I wonder if it was there from the night before or that same night. This was the interview JLR Investigates took with Kane, one of the neighbors, and you'll hear him talking about seeing ambulances on the driveway of 1122 Kings Road.
Driveway.
Okay.
I didn't know anything had happened. It was around noon on Sunday that I was driving home and saw a bunch of the cop cars and ambulances, and was kind of weirded out of what was even going on.
Yeah.
But besides that, I hadn't, the night before, I hadn't seen anything. I already had two detectives come to my place and ask me as well if I had seen anything unusual or anything like that.
When they came to your place, what do you mean, your home or your work?
My home.
Okay. Did you see police go to other neighbors' homes? Were they going from door to door?
Yeah, it looked like they were going door to door. They knocked on my door. They knocked on the apartment right next to my door. But the girls that live in the apartment next to me haven't been home since this happened. They'll swing by for a few minutes to grab stuff, but they haven't been home. So I've kind of been wondering, if everybody in the neighborhood is just kind of left due to the fact that nobody feels safe and have that option.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. But when the police came, what were they asking you? Were they asking you about surveillance? Where were you at? What kind of questions were they asking?
Yeah, they asked me, I'm going to guess, the standard routine questions when they're canvassing the neighborhood. They started...
Okay, so let's summarize. He was driving on his way home, and he saw ambulances and police cars in front of 1122 Kings Road. So I assume he lives in an apartment or a flat at Queen's apartment, because he said, I can see the house from my car park. So if the police was knocking at the neighbors' doors and trying to get information, obviously, the question is, there was many neighbors who weren't at home for different reasons. I wonder if they went back to the neighbors to get information, because some neighbors may not have been at home because they didn't want to confront the police and they didn't want to get involved, I would assume. My question is, was a thorough investigation done from the very beginning of this case? The first 48 hours, not only of missing cases, but of any investigation is important, because that's when you gather all the pieces, all the evidence, all the witness statements. We know for a fact, a week and a half after the quadruples, we saw the police expanding the crime scene, extending it with their crime scene tapes. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think of this, Kaylee being shot.